My Spy, The Eternal City is the much-anticipated follow-up to the 2020 action comedy My Spy. It reunites a wonderful cast led by Dave Bautista and Chloe Coleman. The film takes us on a feel-good adventure set in some of Europe's most storied destinations. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
From our podcast, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies, and our website, spymovienavigator.com, the premier go-to resources for spy movie fans. And today we're going to give you our no-spoiler decoding session of the just-released spy movie, My Spy, The Eternal City. And as the name implies, Rome, Italy plays a big role in this movie. Plus, there's a chase through Rome in a vehicle we've never seen in a chase before. All right, let's go.
All right, so the first My Spy movie was delayed due to the start of COVID-19 pandemic. And they finally released it on streaming in June 2020 because they were trying to make it a theatrical release. And in our no spoiler review of that one, we told you we liked that movie. Then in our February 28th episode of Spy Movie News, we told you that the sequel was under development. Well, that sequel, My Spy, The Eternal City, was released on Amazon Prime the weekend of July 18th, 2024. And since this is a just released movie, we're going to leave some big gaps in our discussion of the plot because we don't want to spoil it for you, but we have to talk about some things.
Yeah, there's a lot of choir stuff going on. But this movie,
I like that. I was a choir.
Yeah.
I was a choir guy.
I got kicked out of the choir after I sang "Oh Come All Ye." That's as far as I got. And the nun said, "You're out." Anyway,
this choir's better.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, in this movie, there's a lot of choir stuff going on, and naturally, it also offers some espionage and adventure. After all, it is a spy movie. So beneath the choir's innocent scheduled performances lies a secret mission yet unknown. Sophie and her fellow choir members, led by Dave Bautista's character JJ, embark on covert operations against the backdrop of Italy's eternal beauty. A wonderfully orchestrated piece that includes it all for us here, from the music to the story to the cinematography.
And the choir stuff, I mean, you talk about the choir stuff, they're really good, right? It doesn't take up a ton of the movie, but it is very nice. I mean, they've got songs like Shenandoah, Unclouded Day, and Hear My Prayer. I mean, those really work well here. And those were recorded by La Cañada High School Chamber Singers.
Cool.
Plus, there's also a bit of this song, Holy Spirit, performed by Eastbane Sea Africa, as the concert in this thing is a worldwide competition. So given that this movie's probably targeted teenagers, it's really nice to see them bring in and expose them to a variety of music.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and it's good to know the real singers behind us. And I think they did a fantastic job. All right, My Spy, The Eternal City is crazy. It's a little bit zany, and it's funny. It's an action comedy, and you will smile or laugh. But there are some serious elements as well, which creates an interesting and intriguing balance. There's a romance on multiple levels, from teenage crushes to adult crushes. And you have to have some of that in spy movies. And yep, there are Italian sunsets, sunflowers, and romance. A perfect blend. All right, like the first movie, this one has a well-earned PG-13 rating. It earned that rating for sexual content, alcohol use, violence, foul language, and nudity. We heard an F-bomb and a bunch of uses of the word shit. I said it. There, I said it.
Oh no.
My God. Now we got to put a PG-13 on this podcast episode. The nudity is not human nudity here. Rather, it involves a statue in Rome where you see a man's genitalia. Okay, it's a pretty common sight in Italy on male statues. Well, here, it gets knocked off in a fight, which leads to one very adult sexually charged joke by Bobby.
I loved that joke.
That's a good joke by Bobby, who was played by Christian Schall. Younger kids probably won't get Bobby's joke. We think most of the teenagers will.
Yeah, they will. It's a good joke. No, it's kind of funny. We talk about this, the nudity in the statues.
Yeah.
Right. As an aside, when I was in Florence with my family years ago, my nephew was horrified by the exposed genitalia on Michelangelo's David. I mean, I can only imagine his reaction to what happens in this movie when he was that age. He was about 10 at the time. So wouldn't recommend, I mean, this is PG-13. I wouldn't recommend this movie for most 10-year-olds due to the language and the statue's nudity. He was pretty freaked out over it.
Oh, wow. I've been to Florence a couple of times, and I've never heard anyone make any comments like that about the statue David or David or wherever you want to say it. In fact, Many people were taking pictures with David, putting themselves in, various poses.
It's kind of like if you go to Verona and look at the Juliet statue, right? One of her breasts is well rubbed.
Yeah, Tom, you and I were both there at the same time,
Yeah.
and perhaps contributing to that. Okay. Or you look at the mannequin peas in Brussels. I mean, the peeing boy, which we saw too when we were there. People do the same thing there with the cameras and poses. So what the heck? It's funny, really. In art, you could show all these kinds of things on television, regular television, and they're not sexual in any regards. But here we're calling it out. But it's really what they do with this one statue, as you mentioned, Tom. Well, you knew something was going to happen when you saw those statues first. You knew something was going to happen with that particular part. And Bobby, again, Kristen Schaal, plays it off well.
Yes, she does. Now, so we're talking about this a lot here. And one of the reasons we're doing that is that at the beginning of the movie, when you started up on Amazon Prime, because it's streaming on Amazon Prime, they do tell you it's rated PG-13 and the reasons for it. And one of the reasons is listed as nudity, not nudity of a statue.
Yeah,
right. So
right.
we just wanted to point out it's not human nudity, it's
No,
a
there's
statue.
none. Right. None of that in there. All right, let's get to the movie. As in the first movie, Dave Bautista plays the CIA agent, JJ. He lives with Sophie and Kate and wants Sophie to think of him as her father, not stepfather. But Sophie always thinks of him as stepfather. Because even here, at one point, she says, "You're not my father."
Wait, what is that line? Luke, I am your father. Well, here, you're
I
not
am
my
your
father.
Luke,
All
I
right.
am your father.
Now, Sophie is played by Chloe Coleman. She's reprising her role. She did it in My Spy.
Yeah.
And she's now 15 years old when they did this. And she's making kind of a splash for herself as an actress. And I think it's great to see her acting development between the first My Spy and this one. She's done some other movies and some TV stuff, but my exposure to her is through My Spy. I
Yeah.
think she should be able to make the transition from a child actor to a young adult actor very well if she wants to. I think she does a very good job of showing emotion in this movie, especially with the interplay between her character, Sophie, and JJ.
Yeah. She used her whole body to act too. She did a very good job with her face and delivery of the lines too. What about Kristen Schaal and Ken Jeong?
As we said, Kristen Schaal is back as Bobby, and Ken Jeong is back as David Kim.
Yeah.
And he's got a bigger role in this movie than he did in the first one. Now, Anna Faris is in here playing a character called Nancy.
Mhm.
And there's a henchman, and I think he's a really good henchman, named Bishop Crane, played by Flula Borg. So these are
he's
some
good.
of the supporting characters of the story.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent, actually. I thought he could have been in a Bond movie. Really.
Yeah, he was. I thought
he was that good.
Yeah, he was
that
a
good.
really good henchman.
Yeah.
Now, there's one other character that character is played by a different actor in this movie, and that's Sophie's mother, Kate. So in the first My Spy, Parisa Fitzhenley played Kate. In My Spy, The Eternal City, Lara Babalola takes on the role of Kate. But don't blink or you're going to miss her anyways.
Yeah.
She has a
yes.
very small role in the sequel as she's in Rwanda working with Nurses for Global Health.
Yeah, you don't
So
see
they
her
just
much.
kind of tried to bury it. And the way the shots are of her, it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
tell it's not the same actor,
Yeah.
but it is a different actor.
Yeah. All right. So without giving it away, what's the plot of this movie? Well, Amazon's site puts it this way. Backed by popular demand, My Spy's dynamic duo, veteran CIA operative JJ, Dave Bautista, and his 14-year-old stepdaughter and protege, Sophie, Chloe Coleman, reunite to save the world when a high school choir tour of Italy is interrupted by a nefarious nuclear plot targeting the Vatican. Okay.
Dun, dun,
pretty,
dun.
that pretty much sums it up, I think.
I think it does.
We don't have to
And
give
the
you a
nice thing
lot
about it
more
is,
of that.
yeah, there's a little bit of you get what's happening here, but they don't give everything away in that either. So.
No. It starts out with a boy named Ryan, King Kerr, on a private airplane with JJ, who is his bodyguard. A fight occurs on the plane, and a very nice skydiving scene occurs. Now, part of this reminded us of the pre-title sequence in Moonraker. I mean, the skydiving part.
Well,
Yeah,
even the fight, there's a fight in the plane, which is kind of cool
Yeah,
too.
the fight
You've
in the
seen
plane
that
too.
before
That's
too.
true. Yeah. I mean, this is all done, I think, visual effects here, pretty much, but it's well done.
Now, Sophie has a crush on Ryan, right? And
Yeah.
we're not going to say more about it, but this movie, I think, does a pretty good job of showing teenagers multiple crushes going on, teens trying to take control of their lives, especially from the adult,
Yeah.
and so that interaction with the teens and adults and teens amongst teams, I think they do a pretty good job of showing us that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I thought so too. I think you look at it and you think, yeah, teenagers would act like that. That's good. So
Yep.
there was never a question. You think, yeah, okay, sure, they would say that. Do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Well,
Now, we then see JJ in the kitchen cooking. And it always makes me laugh when they have these big macho guys don an apron. I mean, I don't think they're trying to make them look funny. I think they're trying to make them look domesticated, but it always puts a smile on my face when I see that.
yeah,
And in this
yeah,
case, I mean, JJ does love to cook in this thing, and he's constantly trying to win Sophie over
yeah.
by being a good dad, which includes cooking.
Yeah, I mean, he looks a little out of place with the apron on, but actually, he's doing a good job. He's doing his best. He's trying to cook. That's fine.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was good. All right, then JJ's inside the CIA headquarters running a mission from the inside. Unlike in the first movie, where he was an agent out in the field, here he has a desk job now. We see the mission as he looks on. Of course, we got all the big screens here. It was an excellent set. We're going to talk about that later. And we get our first MacGuffin, a USB drive that contains nuclear device locations. That's the MacGuffin. Okay, we
Wait,
need that.
a USB thing or a data store that has information on it that somebody wants?
Oh my
Wow,
gosh,
that's novel.
that never has been done before. All right, there's a nice segue here between a gun with a silencer and a motorcycle running over a plastic bottle of water. Actually, the sound here is terrific. And what I thought was one of the most clever shots in the movie because of what they're showing you. The sound and the pistol and the silencer, boom. It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I even like they cut to this really short scene with the henchman, that crane guy, doing pull-ups, and he's got a chain around his neck,
Yeah.
and he's told about the
Heavy
theft.
chain.
Yeah, heavy chain. That was his weights as he's doing his
Yeah.
pull-ups. And he's told about the theft of the locations. And I like the way they had him costumed for this thing with that chain on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he also gets to show us he has some gadgets.
Yeah.
So
Gadgets.
we know there's going to be some gadgets in this spy movie fairly early on.
Yeah, Ken Jeong reprises his role as David Kim, as we said. We think they use him better in this sequel, much better, we think, than they did in the first movie. He still has the Ken Jeong humor displayed, for sure, but he has a better acting role, we think, in this one.
I agree with you.
Yeah, for being a licensed physician in real life, which he has now given up for his acting career.
You're talking about Ken Jeong, not the character.
Yeah, Ken Jeong, right?
Yes.
He's pretty darn good, and he's funny in this one. Not all of his comic delivery is totally effective. It probably was the writing more than him, but most of it is, and that's good enough.
Well, and for me, I like Ken Jeong, but I only like him in small doses. And
Okay,
he's in this movie a fair amount,
he is.
but he's not always the comedic Ken Jeong. And so
Right.
I like that balanced it out for me pretty well here. Now, one place where they let him go is in the end credits. So if you watch the end credits are 13 minutes long in this thing.
Yeah,
Right.
worth
And the
waiting
first,
for.
yeah, the first bit of it is the stuff you'd really want to watch. And there is a scene with Ken Jeong and Craig Robinson, who's a CIA agent in the movie. And, the Office fans will know Craig Robinson. But this scene really is, I think, to highlight Jeong's comedy. My wife and I were talking about that scene, and she said, my guess is what happened was they were fooling around one day, and they said, let's put that in the credits.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Because
it was good.
it's Ken Jeong being Ken Jeong, but he's still David Kim. Right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
the only character I didn't buy was the main villain. And so we don't want to give away
right,
who the
right.
person is or anything about the person. But I'll tell you, I just didn't buy that character as the villain.
Right. Well, look, let's get back to the teenage crushes here because that is a big part of this movie. It permeates the movie, really.
Yep.
They further show us that Sophie has a crush on Ryan while introducing us to a friend of Sophie's named Colin. He's played by an actor, K.O.K. You can tell that Colin has a crush on Sophie, but she doesn't realize it. And actually doesn't seem to care. Now, lots of teenager stuff going on here, but it's done really well.
Well, she has her eye on somebody else. So she's not even
Got the crush
noticing
on Ryan.
that Colin's got a crush on her.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that happens in real life,
Yeah.
especially with teenagers as they're trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And I think they show that well.
Yeah. And after this is a great scene with Sophie and JJ in a gym, and he's training her to be a spy, of course. This is a good scene as it shows the chemistry that Dave Bautista has with Chloe Coleman on the screen. They really do work well together.
Yes, and you said between Dave Bautista and Chloe Coleman. Now, I like this scene for a couple reasons. And first, besides showing us some nice training, I also think it shows us how Sophie is advancing with her action skills from what we saw in the first movie.
Yeah.
But second, I think it shows where the relationship is, or maybe I should say, isn't between JJ and Sophie. That's why I'm delineating between Bautista and Coleman versus JJ and Sophie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
JJ is really struggling here to gain that chemistry with Sophie. And I think these
Yes.
two actors do a really good job portraying that struggle.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thing to point out too. The difference between the actors having a good chemistry on screen and the actual stuff that's going on screen in the story. Finally, the school choir finds out it's going to Rome as it won a contest. JJ signs up to be a chaperone. And that's about
What
that's
could
about all
possibly go wrong?
that's about all the plot we're going to really expose here. Well, maybe a little bit more. We're 20 minutes into this movie. The plot is set, and the rest of the movie is about the trip, starting in Venice, and then the plot about stopping this nuclear explosion. And where is that thumb drive? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I thought the first 20 minutes of this movie are the setup, and there are some slow moments. There are a
I
couple
agree
of
with
slow
you.
moments,
I
right?
agree with you there.
Yeah.
This movie
And
was
some
too long.
yeah, and some predictable moments as well, like the bit with the scones. I mean, I knew exactly what was going to happen in every one of those scenes, but I found myself saying, "Okay, let's get on with this and let's get to the good stuff." So,
I think our listeners will agree with you on that one, especially that scone thing. They that talk about that one and the Finches. Talk about overused.
yeah. All right. Some of the dialogue was, I guess, teenager-ish, and I suppose for the teenagers being portrayed, hey, that was okay. Colin tells Sophie what Ryan does in the bathroom. Okay, don't let your minds race here. It's not like that. It's not that bad. It was silly, but I guess appropriate given the circumstances surrounding it. So I thought it was kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. And I think that we have to remember, I believe this movie is targeted at teens.
Yeah, yeah,
And I thought that that teenager-ish dialogue was very appropriate.
yeah,
It's a movie about teens, spies, nuclear bombs, and the interaction of teens with adults.
yeah,
And so I think it does work here.
yeah. All right, let's get to some of the scenes and some of the things that actually do happen in the movie. We get a spy event happening in Istanbul right up front, and we get an establishing shot of what I think it's the Hagia Sophia,
Yes.
which of course reminds us of From Russia with Love, Top Copy, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and Skyfall, to name a few.
Yeah,
That were,
and I've been there to the
yeah,
Hagia Sophia, so it's very nice.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that many of the locations that they have in here, not just Istanbul, but Venice, Tuscany, and Rome, and
yeah,
what they
yeah,
do with the shooting there. I think it's really nice because it gives you a little bit of a flavor of where they are. Actually,
yeah, yeah.
some of the street scenes and the alleyway kind of thing.
Beautiful.
It gives you the feel like you're there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So it's a spy movie, so there are going to be some chases, right?
Yes.
Now, there's one chase that I particularly liked, and you mentioned this way up front, Dan.
Yeah.
There's a vehicle
Yeah.
that I would say most of the people listening to this will have seen.
Yeah. At
You
some
may
time or
have
another.
even seen it live or
Yeah.
on the street. Most likely you've seen it on television or in print.
Yeah.
But it's the first time that I'm aware of that it was used in a movie chase. And
I
movies
think
are
so.
trying to do this, trying to get goofier things in chases and vehicles you wouldn't expect. This
Yeah.
one you would not expect.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it made us laugh. I mean, look, they're in Rome, so you go figure it out.
Yeah, we don't give it away.
This made the chase unique.
Yes.
All right. A lot of time is spent with JJ trying to corral the kids he's chaperoning, of course, because there's going to be issues. They're teenagers, and the spy techniques and equipment that he uses to do this. This is all pretty cool as each tries to outwit the other. The teenagers are trying to outwit him, he's trying to outwit them. It's pretty funny.
It is.
Just seeing how they do it is pretty cool. And the gadgets and the technology is pretty believable. And knowing what we know about Sophie and JJ, hey, we can believe it all.
Totally. And
Yeah.
now, Dan, you've never chaperoned a trip like this, have you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't either, but my wife has.
Yeah, my wife
And
has too.
yeah, she said it was tough keeping track of everyone and keeping everyone on the same page. I bet she wishes she had some of the gadgets JJ did.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier,
Yes.
especially if the teenagers didn't.
Yes.
All right. There's another great segue after a choir practice of stern statues and faces. This is in Rome, right? And then a confrontation between Sophie and JJ. They do a great job showing us the struggle that JJ has trying to be this stepdad to Sophie and his love for her and not knowing really sometimes what to do.
Yeah, they do a really good job showing that conflict.
They do. Yeah. Here, there's a nice exchange between the two of them. And JJ says, "Hey, I'm an Army Ranger who survived 5 tours of duty. I can survive one choir tour." And the look on Sophie's face as she says, and is fantastic. And she walks away. Like, that's a great exchange that sets us up for more things to come.
Yeah, you talk about foreshadowing.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
They said that was good. I mean, because kids are going to be kids, and they don't always do what they're supposed to do when they're on a trip. Nor sometimes the adults don't do what they should do either.
That's true too.
All right, now one scene in here that I really liked is there's this room in the safe house where they have a collection of weapons for the agents, and it immediately reminded me of that scene in Kingsman: The Secret Service when Eggsy goes into that room with Harry in the Kingsman tailor shop.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. And I thought that was really well done here as well. And JJ selects quite a few things out of the armory there. It's pretty cool. There are a few scenes with finches. I just didn't get the use of the birds in this movie all that much.
Yeah, they were there, and they didn't really think they looked all that real. And I suppose they
No.
were supposed to be trained weapons, but I thought they were rather superfluous. But we do see them later again, so maybe they thought these birds were cool, or maybe they were really expensive, so they thought they'd have to use them. I don't know, but
I think they must have thought they were cool because they used them again, like you said. And I just didn't get that whole finch thing.
yeah,
But
I didn't either.
so there's a scene where a big fan is blocking David Kim and JJ, and it felt like the scene in the movie The Rock when John Patrick Mason, played by Sean Connery, by the way, has to infiltrate the facility. He had to time his movements or he'd die. But here it was a different spin on the
Oh.
fan bit.
Okay, I get it, Dan. A different spin on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Oh man. Okay. All right, let's go on. All right.
All right.
So we've talked about this character, Bobby, played by Kristen Shaw. And as we said in our first review of the movie, we really love her because
Yeah.
she's the geek that can hack into most things, but not all things. And that's one thing I really like about it is she can't get through everything. And to me, she's very funny. Almost
is.
all of the adult level humor comes out of her mouth. We also do want to caution you that Bobby has a few lines which slam the Catholic Church. Now, I'm a big fan of Bobby's character and performance here, and I just think she's fantastic here.
She is fantastic. She has some great lines, and her deadpan delivery really actually adds to their effectiveness. The nun bit was cute.
Oh yeah, I agree there.
She does put a couple of digs into the Catholic Church here, especially with a great Pope line. But overall, I thought it was pretty tame, and I did not find it offensive, but I thought it was pretty funny, actually. So,
Oh, I agree with you. I thought it was funny, and I wasn't offended either. But given my upbringing, Daniel, my upbringing, I know some very religious people who
yeah,
might get offended with these lines. So just like the nudity in the statue and what they do there,
yeah, there's going
we
to be
just
some.
we just want to call it out because if you are very sensitive to that, you know it's there.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to Sophie because she's terrific. Her spy skills are much better in this movie than in the first one. Her training has paid off as JJ has taught her and prepared her well. She is critical in this movie with her skills. So that is fantastic.
You know, when you say she's critical in this movie with her skills, you also see how her skills advance even within the movie. We talked about how they advance from the first movie.
Yes.
Within the movie, her skills advance.
Yeah. I love it when he says, I haven't seen you throwing a knife for over a week. Ooh, okay, never mind. All right.
What a great dad.
We do get a spy movie trope that's often used, an agent going rogue.
No,
Okay.
wait. a rogue agent in a spy movie.
Yeah.
That's so original.
Yeah, they got a couple of original ideas like that
Yeah.
here.
But wait a second. As I think about it, I don't remember seeing a train.
And-
How can they do a spy movie without a train? They've got buses, boats, airplanes, bicycles, automobiles, and motorcycles. But I don't remember a train.
I
Is this
guess they
really a
said-
spy movie?
I think they maybe thought Bautista had been on enough trains. All right, you Bond fans. All right.
So I also like that there were some backstories. I mean, a few of the bad guys have a past that's brought forward.
Yeah,
And I
that's good.
like that they did do some connections between the first My Spy movie and with this one in a few different scenes.
Yeah, that was that was great. I like that too. I like the connection. It makes us closer to the characters and allows us to empathize with them, which
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
was a great idea. So that was well done. All right. They also did a great job with cinematography. This is on Amazon Prime. The cinematography, there were gorgeous night shots, for instance, of Venice. Beautiful establishing shot of Florence. The street vendor shtick. That was terrific. And I thought the set design was outstanding.
Yeah, again, I agree with you on all of that stuff. And I particularly like some of those winding streets and stuff. And that was really neat.
The street scenes were great. The control room of the CIA, very Bond-like. The weapons room, like we mentioned in the safe house, the rooms below the Vatican, the hotel interiors, the street shots, they were all very, very well done, including the chase scenes and the crashes and the sound effects that went along with them. All the street scenes in Rome, too, they worked in the Roman Forum, the Colosseum, the Spanish Steps, I think, were in there as well. A lot of good stuff like that. So you get to see some of the beauty of Rome, and the shots themselves of it were spectacular.
Yes, I agree. And there was some good stuff in Venice, establishing shot from Tuscany, but
Yeah.
gives you kind of a feel like you're there.
Yeah. All very, very well done. Great
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely. It's a wonderful journey throughout the movie. We have well-used shots, the
Yep.
color palettes they use, the angles, and the subject matter that add to an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, right. And let's talk about the musical score. I mean, I'm going to talk everything about the musical score, but I want to point it out because it's done by Sean Siegel. The music was appropriate throughout the whole movie. Several things stood out, and I liked how they selected some established pieces and featured them at certain points.
Yes.
The scene in Tuscany, for instance, that involved the sunflower field, which is beautiful anyway, Tuscany and sunflowers. I mean, if you ever seen the Tuscany fields with sunflowers, it's just like spectacular. Well, they captured that in this movie. Well, that scene alone had the great Caruso from the opera Tosca playing. And of course, Tosca was the opera playing in Quantum of Solace. And later in the movie, the selection of Love by Nat King Cole was just absolutely spot on. That was perfect.
Right. And you can't go wrong with adding Tosca to a movie.
Right.
Right. Dan, I enjoyed this movie, and I think many spy fans will. I mean, it's not for everyone because it appears to be targeted to teens and young adults.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking for the gritty, the spy who came in from the cold type of a spy movie, this is not it. But if you just want a fun, light spy movie, I think our fans will like this.
Yeah. I think it's a fun, entertaining movie on both the comedic level and the lighter spy movie level. And I would say, yes, see it for fun. Have fun. And it is a fun movie to see. I think adults are going to enjoy this movie as well. All right. We've decoded the new movie, My Spy, The Eternal City. Now, check it out on Amazon Prime right now. All right. This has been Dan
And Tom
of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Subscribe to our show and our YouTube channel as well. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you spending time with us.